everyone, and welcome back to Sip and Spin. My name is Skylar, and over here in a cute little sweater is Brittany.
Hello! This is a variety podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and nothing.
Today, maybe some nothing.
Why is that?
Especially on my side. But our topic was random.
Yes, which this is one of our newer ones. We've only done it once before, and it was a very random episode. So I have a feeling, at least my topic is very random. I can only imagine what yours is. I used to know, so.
Yeah. I also had to do a last minute topic change because the topic I was going to talk about, I've been working on getting notes for it done for like a week and a half, and I still was not able to finish them. There's just so much information, but I saved all of the notes I did and put a podcast episode future because I'm going to save them for next time.
Future gigantic episode,
yeah, future
seems like.
Ginormous episode is going to be a lot, but did a last little minute topic change, so everything from mine is basically just copy and pasted from the Wikipedia article because I had like 3 hours.
Fair enough. So yeah, maybe you'll learn something very random from us today. And what are we drinking?
We are drinking a drink we like.
Yes. So what are you sipping on?
So I'm having an Overstone Sauvignon Blanc. And how we found out that I like this drink is because yesterday we had our little Friendsgiving, and I went to go pick up a drink from the wine store that I always go to, and Charlie was just sitting there with a little table set up and was doing like wine tastings, and he was like, "Here, try these." I was like, "Okay."
Yes, I will.
I was like, "I will." And I really liked the Sauvignon Blanc, so that's what I bought and had some last night. I'm going to have some again tonight.
Yeah. I am having a gimlet, which I discovered I like this. Well, a gimlet, I've never had one until I made one for myself, but it's just gin, simple syrup, and lime juice. That's all it is. But
no wonder I didn't quite know what it was.
Yeah, I figured. It's more like I don't know if it's considered like a classy drink, but I have the recipe for it from my Gilmore Girls cookbook, and it's an Emily Gilmore recipe, so naturally, we love her. And I like her gimlet recipe, so that is what I am drinking. In a glass that makes me nervous.
Small cheers.
Yes. Tart. Do you want to try it?
I will.
It's very lime and gin.
Not for me.
I didn't figure. I probably could have added a little bit more simple syrup, but I did go easy. It's because I only made a little bit.
It's not bad, but it's very like
yeah,
puckering.
Yeah, it's very tart, which I love tart things. So. But how are you? Other than your note fiasco.
Yeah, other than that, I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
I was like, I really feel like I don't have anything to add this week.
So it's also like the third time I've seen you this week, so
yeah,
I don't
that's
know. I feel like I've heard everything already.
Yeah, last night was super fun. We had Friendsgiving, so I really enjoyed that. I always love partying with these people here.
Partying with the peeps.
Partying with the peeps. We just drank and
ate and talked.
Listened to music. That Brittany made a special playlist that had songs that all of our friends have mentioned or brought up or artists, and it was really, really sweet.
I did. I thought it was nice.
It was very nice, and it was a good night.
Good.
And then I had yesterday off. Well, I got to leave early yesterday.
Right.
They gave me today off, and I also am not scheduled to work tomorrow, so I'm like...
hey, get it, girl. The pieces are just falling into place.
I was like, it's been a pretty good week. It was your birthday week. It was like the special power of your birthday, like, gave me a good week.
Rubbed off on you.
How are you?
I am good. I'm tired, mainly just from yesterday, but I'm good, ultimately. Just a little tired, but I'm gonna push through this yawn.
Thank you for that.
Sorry.
Now, since I didn't get to spend your actual birthday day with you, how was it? Did you do anything fun?
No.
No.
My birthday was not a good day.
Oh, no.
I just cried for most of it.
Oh.
And I was just it was just a down day. Was it one of my depressed days? So I had to actually, like, cancel all of my plans, and maybe I'll do a birthday makeup day or something.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, no. I did not have a good time on my birthday.
I took all the good vibes from your birthday for myself.
I'm glad they worked out for someone, okay? But, yeah, it was, I don't know. I was in a weird mood. That's fine. Yesterday was good. Today was
And she didn't
slow.
cry yesterday.
I didn't. You tried to make me cry.
Okay, let's be fair. I did not try to make her cry.
No, she gave me a sweet card. And it almost made me cry. It's fine.
Did you like the outside of the card, though?
I did.
I was like, the second I saw it, I was like, that's why I kept saying, I was like, I'm so excited for you to get your card.
I was like,
perfect.
where is she going with this? And I was not expecting Schmidt to be where you were going, so I liked that a lot. It was very cute. And then today I did my notes and relearned about a topic that I learned about in art school that I think I blacked out because it's not fun.
Okay.
And there's going to be a weird beginning, and you're going to be like, why did she learn about this in art school?
Uh-huh.
And then it'll make sense towards the end.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was an interesting afternoon.
Is it more fun now to know?
No.
Okay.
It's just about a not great time in history, which I think, like, is most history.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought you meant it was like you hated learning about it, and I was
I mean, I hate that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's one of those things.
Our topics may not be so different after all.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Goodness.
mine is an event
Okay.
that was not so great as well.
I am interested how similar they are.
Yeah. Mine came from a documentary that I watched like 6 months ago, so I couldn't even like do any extra information from the documentary because I watched it like when it first came out, and I was like, it's been a hot minute.
Huh. All right.
I watched it back when it was still warm outside.
It was still warm. Those days.
Took like till 8 p.m. to get dark.
Yeah. It do be getting dark early. Okay, but I guess if there's nothing else, we should just get into it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add.
So I am going to talk about the fact. Okay, well, I've forgotten about this, and then with the resurgence, I don't know if you're on archaeology TikTok, but it pops up every now and then on mine.
I can't say that I am.
Mainly because it's believed recently that they found Cleopatra's tomb.
Oh,
By
okay.
a female-led archaeologist, like, go girl, which is a big deal, and it's making waves because Cleopatra's always said, like, no man will ever find my tomb.
Mm-hmm.
And a man didn't. A female possibly has. So that's very exciting.
Very Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. But then, like, also around when all of that was happening, at another dig site, I think, or maybe very similar close by, they just discovered a mysterious queen that no one knew about. So
Okay, did we not learn anything from the Mummy about digging up like people's resting places?
There's a lot of stuff going on there. It's like, oh, that could be fun to talk about, but it's still like ongoing, so I don't know how much information would be.
Yeah.
Since I'm also getting a lot of it from TikTok, so that's already like a very quick medium. That could be the extent of it for all I know. But that made me remember another mummy thing from the past. So we're going to talk about mummies. Is still kind of my topic. But specifically, there should be more mummies in the world. And I feel like a lot of people choose to forget when Europeans were just like eating mummies.
Oh.
So let's talk about that. Because that is a thing they did.
Why?
I will tell you.
Was it like the embalming stuff? I don't...
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, we should have more mummies in the world. But, you know, mummies were used and very grossly abused in the Christian West, because of course they were. So Egyptian mummies have been traced back some 5,000 years, but they only started becoming available in Europe in medieval times. Why? Primarily because there was a belief that they had medicinal powers, like healing properties. This belief appears to have been based loosely on the ancient Greeks' medical use of pitch or butamin. That's the basis of why we went to mummies. It's for that one ingredient. Great.
I don't know what either of those are.
I'm not even sure if I'm saying... How do I even just say it? Bitumen. I'm not sure, but that is the substance. It's a substance which oozed from the earth in Persia and various other places in the Middle East. It was recorded by historians such as Pliny the Elder that this specific substance was used like a cure-all for a variety of medical things, but it was supposed to be like extraordinarily versatile. So it could, like, they used it as a cure-all. So
everyone with ibuprofen.
So everyone wants, obviously, everyone wants this substance.
Hungover, ibuprofen.
I mean,
cramping, ibuprofen.
Yeah.
Headache, ibuprofen.
Essentially the same thing going on right here. It's kind of debated how the reputation of bitumen somehow got associated with preserved Egyptian bodies. So it's kind of like convoluted where this connection came from.
Could it just be like convenience?
Well, based on some of the 12th century writings of, I am going to butcher this person's name, Abed el-Latif, the general view is that the blackened appearance on some of the bodies, which was due to the aging of the embalming materials, was attributed to the use of bitumen being used to soak the bodies and their shrouds. So it's what the wrappings were, like, soaked in.
Okay.
So that's why.
So I Googled it.
Okay.
To try and see if I could, like, find a pronunciation. It's asphalt.
Okay. I did not see that when I didn't Google that. I just...
Yeah. Asphalt, also known as
Bitumen, whatever.
Is a sticky, black, highly viscous liquid or semi-solid form of petroleum.
Well, now we know.
So they were just soaking these people, soaking in petroleum, essentially.
But apparently it's a cure-all, people. Please don't eat asphalt.
Or drink petroleum.
But now that that's a fun little fact to keep in the back of your brain now when I tell you all that's about to go down with this shit.
Bitumen.
So like bitch.
Yeah.
Bitumen. Okay.
Bitumen.
I never would have pronounced it like that.
Yeah, me either.
Cool. I will try to remember that.
It's fine.
So that bitumen or whatever is what they soaked the wrappings in, and therefore
they made roads out of it. It really is a versatile.
I mean, it really
can be used for anything.
They're not lying when they said it was versatile. So therefore, from all of that, it was believed that these bodies would then provide a much-needed alternative supply because I guess it was becoming increasingly a scarce substance at the time because they were, I guess, using it for everything. Mm-hmm. But they were like, hey, these bodies are wrapped in that. That's a good enough source for this substance that we so desire.
Oh, no. Which I guess now it's probably not because we found easier ways to, like, basically suck petroleum out of the ground.
Yeah.
But back then they wouldn't have had, like, oil rigs, basically, to be able to do that. So
it was becoming really scarce, yeah.
So back then it would have been scarce, and now it's a renewable resource.
How the times have changed. Latif himself claimed that the substance, quote, found in the hollows of corpses in Egypt differs, but immaterially, from the original bitumen, quote, and where any difficulty arises in procuring the latter, it may be substituted in its stead, end quote. So that was his, like, good enough reasoning.
You can't see the face I'm making, but it's a very icky face.
There are gonna be some icky faces. I had some when I was like, oh god. Again, I learned about this in art school. We're getting to why at the very end.
Did you use that as, like, a medium or something? Not a medium, because medium's what you paint on, right? Like, a medium would be a canvas. No, medium is the type of thing you use. No?
Mm-hmm.
Which one is it?
You can use it as both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you guys
typically, when people are like, oh, what medium do you use? It's what, like, paint or sculpture. That would be, like, the medium. But yeah, no.
We learned about it because y'all were, like, using petroleum to, like...
No. No, I learned about it in art history. So art history has a little fun thing with bitumen and mummies.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yay. So the Persian word for bitumen was mum or mumia. And then the variants of these words came to be applied to the bitumen that supposedly soaked the shrouded corpses. And then, of course, ultimately, these words began being applied to the preserved body themselves. And that is how we got the name mummy.
Yeah, the second you said that, I went, oh, that's why they're called mummies.
Yep.
I would have never known that.
No, I didn't know that either. So that's like interesting, but oh god. So, despite legal restrictions, by the 16th century, exporting mummies from Egypt to Europe to be ground up and used as medicine was a big business. Yeah.
No wonder you blocked this out. I would have too.
Yeah, it's rough. Fagan described it as, quote, a flourishing trade in human flesh. And just, ick. I hate that quote so much. I hate all of this, but that quote, like, gave me, like, ugh.
No, that's not how we describe dead bodies.
No, we shouldn't do anything like this to the dead. So, collection...
Those poor corpses.
I know, like, just let these people rest. Collection and distribution businesses...
No wonder we have ghosts.
Right. We deserve it. Were established, and many people began to trade in mummies. It just became this big booming thing. Exporting complete bodies or packages of fragmented tissue from Cairo and Alexandria.
Stop.
So not even, like, sometimes just bits and pieces of bodies. They're like, this can be used as... This can cure your headache. Grind it up.
I think I'll just stick to ibuprofen, thanks.
In his History of Egyptian Mummies, Thomas Pettigrew states, quote, no sooner was it credited that mummy constituted an article of value in the practice of medicine than many speculators embarked in the trade. The tombs were sacked, and as many mummies as could be obtained were broken into pieces for the purpose of sale. Which is just so disrespectful. So horrible. Both locals and visitors were said to have dug up tombs and transported mummies to Cairo, and then they were, quote, sold for a trifle. So they were just sold. Not even for that much, probably. This used to be people, and yeah, it's just horrible. Abdel Latif wrote, quote, for half a dirham, I purchased 3 heads filled with the substance. So he just bought 3 heads for the bitumen.
That's awful.
A London merchant. It's very bad. It's very disturbing. People suck. A London merchant, John Sanderson, was an agent for the Turkey Company and was one of the traders at the time. He spent a year in Egypt and gave this account of his visit to the Memphis mummy pits in 1586. So I have a direct quote that's, I think, been translated, so it might be a little rough. Bear with me, because it's also got some crazy spelling. We were let down by ropes, as into a whale, with wax candles burning in our hands, and so walked upon the bodies of all sorts and sizes. They have no noisome smell at all. I think noticeable maybe is what that's supposed to be. No noticeable smell at all. I broke of all the parts of the bodies to see how the flesh was turned to drug, and brought home divers heads, hands, arms, and feet for a show. We brought also 600 pounds for the Turkey Company in pieces, and brought into England in the Hercules. Together with the whole body, they are lapped in about 100 double of cloth, which rotting and piling off, you may see the skin, flesh, fingers, and nails firm, altered black. One little hand I brought into England to show, and presented it to my brother, who gave the same to a doctor in Oxford. And horrible quote. So that's one guy's like very detailed account of just what they did. They just dropped down into like on a rope and pick and pull bodies apart, essentially.
I didn't like all sorts and sizes.
I know. It's very bad. It's all so bad. It doesn't get better.
I'm like hunched up.
Yeah, Skylar is like beetle positioning up. Like a little child in the corner.
Like half hidden behind like my jacket. I'm like...
I am sorry to say, this is not going to any better. It's going to get much worse before it gets any better. Other than being used for medical purposes, they were also just used as an attraction in and of themselves, so more just absolute disrespect. In 1688, Samuel Pepys talked about how he went to a London dockside warehouse after a night of drinking to see a mummy before it was ground up. Quote, and so parted, I, having there seen a mummy in a merchant's warehouse there, all the middle of a man or woman's body, black and hard. I never saw any before, and therefore it pleased me much. though in ill sight. And he did give me a little bit, and a bone of an arm, end quote. So people were, like, just all for this. Like, it didn't...
It pleased me much.
Like, it's just, like, disturbing, and when I was doing all my reading, more people were for this than against it.
Oh my
Like,
god.
It's bad. It's so bad. So yeah, this person gave this guy, Samuel, a little piece of bone, and mummy remnants such as that would commonly form parts of gentlemen's cabinet of curiosities at the time. So a visitor in 1639 described one small such collection that included items from, quote, 2 ribs of a whale, a pelican, the hand of a mermaid, and the hand of a mummy. It was like knickknacks for people. Just bits of someone's body. It's horrible. And if this wasn't already just a complete abuse of human bodies, it somehow gets worse. So when genuine ancient mummies became too scarce or difficult to obtain, suppliers kept up with the increasing demand by resorting to using the corpses of condemned criminals. French physician Guy de la Fontaine, physician to the King of Navarre, investigated the mummy trade in Alexandria in 1564. When he looked into the stock of mummies held by the chief dealer there, he found that the supply was substantially augmented by preparing the bodies of the recently dead, often executed criminals or slaves, by treating them with bitumen and exposing them to the sun to produce the mummified tissue look, which was then sold as an authentic mummy. But they by no means were.
So they not only stole people's actual mummified bodies, they started just taking other corpses and basically fake mummifying them.
Yeah, and since it was criminals and slaves, probably just murdering them for product.
Yeah.
At that point. Yep.
Yeah, because if they're, executed criminals, you can just, back then you could just execute whoever you wanted to.
Yeah, it's gross.
I hate it here.
Yeah. When asked if one of the mummified persons had died of any horrible diseases, one merchant is quoted as replying that, quote, he cared not whence they came, whether they were old or young, male or female, or of what disease they had died, so long as he could obtain them. When embalmed, no one could tell, end quote. So the merchants just didn't even care about anything. Just as long as I get my profit. Even non-human remains were used. Mummified children sometimes turned out to be mummified, I forgot how you say this, abizes, which is like a large wading bird common in Egypt. And counterfeit mummies could also include the flesh of camels. So they weren't even always human at this point anymore. The demand was so high. They're just making counterfeit mummies.
Oh my god.
It's crazy. So, now all of that awfulness was discussed. How exactly were they used medically? Let's talk about it. So typically, it was the ground up body or body parts that was made into a powder and was topically rubbed on or mixed into drinks to swallow. So people were really just out there eating dead bodies for a good amount of time. The medical benefits were proclaimed in standard medical practices, and it was extensively promoted by physicians, apothecaries, and barber surgeons. So, the medical people were out there promoting this shit.
Oh my god.
They were, all for it. By the 16th and 17th centuries, it had become one of the most common drugs found in the apothecary shops of Europe. So, it was the ibuprofen of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some of the most distinguished physicians and scientists of the time were advocates for it. Francis Bacon claimed that it was, quote, one of the useful medicines commended and given by our physicians for falls and bruises. Shakespeare's son-in-law, physician John Hall, treated a case of epilepsy by burning, quote, a mixture of the aromatic resin benzoic, I can't even remember how to say it, powdered mummy, black pitch, and juice of rue. It's reported that Francois I of France always carried a pouch or purse containing a mixture of mummy and pulverized rhubarb because he, quote, fearing no accident if he had but a little of that by him, end quote. So it just, made him feel better just to carry it around. Didn't even need it. Not like anyone needed any of this. Catherine de Medici even sent her chaplain to Egypt in 1549 to procure some. So everyone was just out here wanting this. Mm-hmm. Mummy was still being enthusiastically prescribed for ailments well into the 18th century. So it stuck around for a long time. With a range of mummy, either being just the head, heart, fat, skin, or bones. And then it was used to treat, like I said, a range of things. For example, some of the common stuff was coagulated blood, pungent pains of the spleen, cough, difficult labor, easing of pain, joint issues, dysentery, epilepsy, and a whole lot more. So they just used it for everything, because they didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
No.
16th century Swiss-German medical reformer, this guy's the crackhead, Paracelsus, I'm not even sure, considered that when we eat the flesh of an animal, we also tracked that animal's special qualities. So, this way of thinking led to him fostering the belief that mummies contained a mysterious life force that could be transferred to a sufferer to aid them in recovery. And this guy was a legit medical practitioner. So he thought, hey, if we eat these mummies, their life force saves us. And he grew quite a following, and this was a long-held belief of the time.
People can just say shit and people will listen. I can't believe it.
So, when ancient mummies started becoming scarce, this guy could be called in to aid to support the view that the newer bodies could be used just as well, or even better. So they were also able to use this guy's way of thinking to make it seem alright that they were killing these newer people to use for this practice, because, a newer life force is stronger. It's gonna help you more. It was a batshit crazy. Because apparently this guy, he favored the use of more or less fresh corpses anyway. Quote, if doctors were aware of the power of this substance, no body would be left on the gibbet for more than 3 days, he insisted. I would like to put it on the record now, I just think this guy was a cannibal.
Yeah.
And he wanted everyone else to be cannibals.
That's what it sounds like.
That's all I think about this dude. But wait, it gets worse.
Oh, no. You know you can, actually get, from eating human flesh, there's this disease, I think it's either called kuru or kufu or kuvu, something like that. And from eating human flesh, you basically, go mad for a little bit, and then your body starts to deteriorate, and your muscles start to deteriorate, and you just live in a comatose state for 6 months before you die because of eating human flesh.
I mean, I would imagine you could get a lot of things wrong with you from eating human flesh,
well,
but I have heard of that.
Ones.
Yeah.
I was we had to pick for my 8th grade biology class, we had to pick a non-common disease, or a disease that people don't hear of, and do a report on it. Yeah. And I ended up doing my report on... And that's what
you picked.
Yeah.
How we've come full circle.
Well, it's because I Googled diseases that people don't hear of a lot, and it was the first one, so I was like, alright.
I mean, fair enough.
But it has never left my brain because it scarred me that much. I was learning about that was horrifying.
I mean, I guess now you will never be tempted to try human flesh.
I never was before then. It was never something I was like, just maybe.
Well, apparently the same sentiments were not shared in the 16th and 17th and 18th centuries.
I would probably be burned at the stake if I was like, hey y'all, maybe don't eat human flesh. They'd be like, you're a witch.
Let's not. So yeah, it gets worse from this guy. Johann Schroeder was a German chemist and a follower of Paracelsus, or however you say his name. And he took his beliefs even further, or at least he was more specific. He recommended, quote, the cadaver of a reddish man, because in such a man the blood is believed lighter and so the flesh is better, whole, fresh, without blemish, around 24 years old, dead of a violent death, not illness, exposed to the moon's rays for 1 day and night. So he had a whole fucking checklist that he needed for his flesh intake. Everyone just wanted to be a cannibal. This flesh would then be treated so that, quote, it comes to resemble smoke-cured meat without any stench.
Stop!
It's so bad.
No!
You're not gonna like this part either. Other authorities, and we knew it had to go this way at some point, right? Ascribed particular virtue to the bodies of pure young women.
Oh, of course they did.
According to early 17th century physician Pietro della Valle, The best mummy was to be derived, quote, from the maidens and the bodies of virgins. Of course, we had to go there. Like I said, this was a view that was still held by Jean-Baptiste de Roquefort in 1824. So that's
really, Jean-Baptiste? Really?
Great. Okay, but not everyone was on the let's eat mummies hype train. So okay, now we'll get into some of the naysayers there. Egyptian merchants who exported the mummy to Europe, they always were quoted multiple times, marveling that Christians, quote, so dainty-mouthed could eat the bodies of the dead, which I love, the little shade they were throwing. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so they were like, this is weird, but we're making money. And many in Europe also shared this kind of, distaste for it. So in 1658, the philosopher Sir Thomas Browne commented that, quote, surely such diet is dismal vampirism, and exceeds in horror the black banquet of Domitian, right? Not to be paralleled except in those Arabian feasts wherein ghouls feed horribly, end quote. So he's just comparing everyone to ghouls and demons and vampires, which, fair.
Yeah, that makes sense. That checks out.
Yeah. References to mummy in literature of the time were often ghoulish or critical, treating it in distaste. For example, in Macbeth, Shakespeare mentions it where the three witches add witch's mummy to their cauldron of horrors. In The Merry Wives of Windsor, Falstaff fears being drowned, for the water swells a man, and what a thing should I have been when I had been swelled. I should have been a mountain of mummy. In the poem Love's Alchemy, John Donne describes women as, quote, but mummy possessed. Which, not cute, John.
So I love how Shakespeare was like, maybe don't eat mummies. Meanwhile, his
son-in-law was like, I use it for treating people's epilepsy. And I'm like, I'm sure Shakespeare was not a fan of his son-in-law. Some physicians also shared distaste for the use of mummy medically.
Leonard, well, good. At least there are some scientists.
Some. Not all. Leonhard Fuchs, or however, regarded mummy as disreputable. He was like, no, this ain't it. Physician Ambrose Parr claimed that it had no beneficial effects, so he was on the side of thinking, it was bullshit, no, this is true. And there were a few others, but even so, the use of mummy medicine persisted and subsided quite slowly, and really only because of medical advances. So, even though there were some people who were like, no, there were more that were like, yes. And they probably still would have continued if we, thankfully, we did, but if we didn't evolve any medically, it'd probably still be passing it out.
Oh, God.
So, that's fun to think about. Its clinical use declined substantially from the 18th century onwards. However, in 1973, a New York shop was offering witches' supplies and supposedly had powdered mummy for sale in their shop. And that was in the 70s. So, yay.
Good, very good.
The decline of the medical use doesn't mean the abuse stopped there, though. Since they had no problem ingesting mummy, it's not really a shock that they also painted with mummy, which now this is how I learned about it. So mummy brown was a rich brown pigment made from the flesh of mummies, mixed with white pitch and myrrh. It was also known as Egyptian brown. So this is a pigment. Mummy brown was available right up into the 20th century. So, not that long.
Nope, that's the 1900s.
Yep. It's hard to find specific documented accounts of the paint being used in, which specific works, of famous paintings have mummy brown in it. But there's a general acceptance in the art world that mummy brown was being commonly used by artists from the 16th century. So no one can really prove it, but there's big speculation on certain pieces, which I didn't list just because I don't think anyone else is art history nerdy like I am and would know based off the title of a painting. Because it was, after all, a brown pigment with good transparency, so it was really easily used as an oil paint and watercolor pigment. So it was versatile, much like when it was used medically, is because it was versatile. So it was used for glazing, shadows, flesh tones, and for shading, etc. The pigment achieved its greatest popularity in the mid-18th to 19th centuries and was described as being quite in vogue in 1849. So it was just the hip thing, which is gross. It was a favorite shade of the pre-Raphaelites. Again, we don't know for sure which pieces used it, but artists Eugene Delacroix, Sir William Beechley, and Edward Burne-Jones are all recorded as legit having purchased it. So, good chance that their works of the time have a mummy in it.
These are people's bodies.
Yep. From the blog, Symbiotic, which I think is a fun name, Glidon Mello explains that the brown was good for mixing and fell somewhere between raw umber's nearly green brown and burnt umber's ruddy tone. So, quote, "The pigment itself wasn't easily imitated. It wasn't just made of regular, long dried out corpses. The mummification process involved bitumen, often in place of the removed organs. Mummy brown was a fugitive color, meaning it faded easily. While it was easy for 19th century painters to give up using it due to ick, it was still manufactured long after. That practice didn't end until the 1960s, when paint companies more or less ran out." End quote. So that's the only reason Mummy Brown went out. It's just literally because the company that made it ran out. I'll get to that at the end. British chemist and painter Arthur Herbert Church claimed that just one mummy could be used to create 20 years worth of paint. The paint began to fall out of popularity with the pre-Raphaelites when artists became aware. So a lot of artists, to be fair to them, they didn't know the origins. They just thought it was a cute little title to describe the paint color. And so I mentioned above Edward Burne-Jones as being a legit purchaser. So when he discovered the pigment's origin, he was quite disturbed. His wife is quoted as this recording of when her husband discovered the origins. So, quote, "Edward scouted, which is scornfully rejected, the idea of the pigment having anything to do with a mummy. Said the name must be only borrowed to describe a particular shade of brown. But when assured that it was actually compounded of real mummy, he left us at once, hastened to the studio, and, returning with the only tube he had, insisted on our giving it decent burial there and then. So a hole was bored in the green grass at our feet, and we all watched it put safely in, and the spot was marked by one of the girls planting a daisy root above it." End quote. So he at least was like, no, we have to bury this. This is a body. We need to put it to rest, which I thought was at least very nice of him.
That's good.
Because, again, I imagine most artists either weren't aware of it, but then I know because artists are freaks, some of them probably liked it even more for the reason. So, you can't win them all there. But he was at least a good dude about it. In 1964, like I said, the manufacturer who made Mummy Brown reportedly ran out of mummies to grind up. The managing director had this to say about it, quote, "We might have a few odd limbs lying around somewhere, but not enough to make any more paint. We sold our last complete mummy some years ago. Perhaps we shouldn't have. We certainly can't get any more." End quote. That was his very cavalier and all shucksy doodles.
Oh my god.
Quote about it. So, even in 1964, this man was still like, yeah, we'd keep fucking going if I got some limbs laying around, but not enough to make a paint. But I sure would if I could. Atrocious.
That is disgusting.
So yeah, we should have a lot more mummies in the fucking world, but Europeans decided to eat them and paint with them. That's my segment. Isn't that a fun tidbit of history?
New reason to hate Europe.
How did humans survive? Like, how are we here today?
I don't.
Why did humans not die off forever ago? They did stupid shit. So yeah, there was just casual cannibalism.
Yeah,
back
that
in
everyone
the 16th
was supporting.
century.
They were like, yes, this is the move.
Even no one had an issue with it. So if you need a fun fact throughout at parties, there you go, kids. Casual cannibalism was a vogue hip thing.
Well, thank you for sharing, but thank God that that's over.
Yeah, no, I was quite happy. There were a lot more notes I could have taken, but I was like, I gotta pick and choose, man. Whew, it was very disturbing.
That truly was random.
Right?
And ours are very different.
Oh, okay, darn. No more cannibalism in yours.
No.
Okay, fair enough.
No, ours are very, very different. Mine is still, like, not a great event that happened, but mine is also a lot more recent.
Oh, okay.
Not, like, super topical, but it is exactly 23 years old.
Okay.
Because I am 23 years old.
Yeah.
The tragic event was me.
Oh. Okay.
No, I'm kidding. We're talking about Woodstock 99.
Ah, okay.
So, like I said, I watched a documentary on this, like, a long time ago.
Yes, I watched that in
Yeah.
Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, I think we talked about
We
it.
did. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's a crazy time, too.
Oh, yes, it definitely was.
I'm surprised there wasn't casual cannibalism there. There might have been. Who
There
knows?
could have been. We don't know.
It seemed like it was getting to that point.
It very well could have, with how expensive everything was there to
Right?
get, like, food and drink.
I
Like,
mean, even I might be tempted. I don't know.
Woodstock 99, or Woodstock 1999, was a music festival held from July 22nd to July 25th, 1999, in Rome, New York. After Woodstock 94, it was the second large-scale music festival that attempted to emulate the original 1969 Woodstock Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Like the previous festivals, it was held in upstate New York, but this time it was held at the former Griffith Air Force Base, which was about 100 miles from the original Woodstock site. And the attendance was approximately 220,000 over 4 days. So Michael Lang, who's one of the original co-founders of Woodstock, agreed to partner with John Scher, who's a New Jersey concert promoter. So they were the ones who teamed up to kind of get Woodstock 99 going.
Mm-hmm.
Performers included DMX, Limp Bizkit, Korn, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Alanis Morissette, Kid Rock, Metallica, and Creed, and many, many more.
Mm-hmm.
While no groups that performed at the original Woodstock Festival were at Woodstock 99, there were individuals who did. So, like, even there, like, bands that performed in 1969 did not perform in 1999, but that, like, individual members of some of the bands that performed in 69 did come to perform at 99. One of those being John Entwistle of The Who, performed a solo set, and then Mickey Hart, the drummer of Grateful Dead. I almost wore my Grateful Dead shirt today, but I instead wore my Beatles shirt just because I think my Grateful Dead shirt is in a laundry basket.
Were you a Grateful Dead fan?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I did not know that. There was a Grateful Dead pint night on Wednesday, and I went to it, and I would have asked you to come.
Oh my god, I would have loved that.
Yeah, oh my god, you might have loved it because there was a peach sour Grateful Dead themed drink. Like it was Goodwood Brewing. They had 3 specific Grateful Dead themed drinks, and it was just the brew was playing Grateful Dead. Everyone was wearing tie-dye shirts. Like, I didn't know you were a fan.
Yeah, I have a...
You could have gotten a limited glass.
Oh.
They gave away free glassware, which we didn't go early enough to get a glass, or I would give you the glass if I had it, but I didn't.
My Grateful Dead shirt is a brown and white tie-dye, and then it has, like, you know, the desert scene with the cactus, and, like, says the Grateful Dead on it, and but it's still, like tan and white tie-dye.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I almost wore that today, but I think it was in the laundry because I think I wore it early. I think I actually wore it to work on Wednesday.
Oh, wow.
Which is hilarious because I was like, it's in the laundry because I wore it to work this week, but I think it was on Wednesday.
Subconsciously, you knew.
I was like, I sensed Grateful Dead, like, in
somewhere
the universe.
in the world.
I was like, I just feel it.
Who knew Skylar was a deadhead?
But played with his band Planet Drum, and then Jeff Beck was scheduled to perform but had to cancel due to a scheduling conflict, and he had been scheduled to perform at the original Woodstock Festival, but his band, the Jeff Beck Group, broke up the week before the Woodstock 69 festival.
Yikes.
The Doors rejected an offer to play at the first Woodstock, but their guitarist Robbie Krieger was a surprise addition to Creed's set after he was invited to perform Roadhouse Blues with Creed. Have you heard the Creed baseball song?
There's a Creed baseball song?
There's a Creed baseball song.
Okay. Is it like a song about baseball, or is it like played at baseball games?
No, it's a song they wrote for like a baseball team. Like, that is this baseball team song.
What team?
I can't even fucking remember, but it is fucking hilarious.
And why?
And it's so funny because I don't think Creed knows anything about baseball because they just threw random baseball terms in the song.
With balls wide open.
That's basically
what it is.
Okay. So it's for the Marlins. The song is called Marlins Will Soar.
Of course it fucking is. It's Creed. Oh my god.
I just want to play some of it for you. It's just baseball terms.
Literally, like, had a hat. And they're like, which one next? Which one next? Literally, why? I like to think now, I have a new headcanon, that they were not asked to do this.
I think it was just they asked if they could.
No, not even that. I like to think that they just did this one night, and then they presented it to the team, and they were like, this is for you. And even the team doesn't know what the fuck is happening. That is my new headcanon, and I'm sticking by it. No one tell me differently.
It's so funny.
It's just... I hope the Marlins continue to soar. I really do. That's the most random shit I can think of. Welcome to the random episode.
If there's one thing I have random obscure knowledge of, it's just like rock bands. Like,
and of course it was fucking Creed. Of all bands it could be.
It wouldn't be anyone else.
No.
Like, I could not picture anyone else doing this. But if like I hadn't known this and you had presented this information to me and was like, yeah, Creed did this, I'd be like, that doesn't fucking surprise me.
That makes sense. Oh my god. Amazing. I'm gonna play that at my wedding. Are you okay?
I just choked. Okay. Glad we got our laughs out of the way, because it's gonna get bad here soon.
Yeah, I know.
So
that was nice while it lasted.
It was nice while it lasted. Good thing we've got Creed to bring in a couple laughs.
For levity. Who knew?
Who knew Creed would be the comedic relief of the episode?
Much like the rock world, they are the comedic relief there, too.
They are. The festival was held on the east side of Rome at the former Griffin's Air Force Base. So the U.S. Air Force had closed the B-52 base 4 years earlier in 1995, and it was converted into like a business and technology park. The promoters wanted to avoid the gate crashing that occurred at previous festivals of like people who didn't have tickets like breaking into the concert and like getting to attend the festival free. Mm-hmm. So they were like, do it on an Air Force base, because they basically said that the site was defensible, thinking that the 12-foot plywood and steel fence would keep those without tickets out. Now, attendees actually broke through the 100-foot section of this piece wall of the plywood and the steel 12-foot fence on Saturday night when they were not trying to break into the festival, they were trying to escape.
They wanted to fucking leave.
Along with the fence, around 500 New York State police troopers were planning to provide additional security against gate crashers. In addition to 2 main stages, secondary venues were available. These included several alternate stages, a nighttime rave tent, and a film festival sponsored by the Independent Film Channel held in a former airplane hangar. But the festival was not all it was advertised to be. In fact, it was a horrific time. It was horrible and awful, and it sucked.
It's the OG Fire Festival.
Yeah.
Which is another thing we should talk about someday.
Oh, yeah, I've been meaning to watch that documentary, like the fire party that never happened.
There's a few. They're all really good, actually.
Yeah.
I would recommend watching them all, but that was fucking bananas.
Yeah, it is on my list to watch. I just have not gotten to it yet.
I think Hulu has one, and I think Netflix has one.
I know about the Netflix one. That's the one that's on my list.
They're both really good.
Okay. Oppressive heat and difficult environment conditions basically set the tone for the rest of the festival from day one. The site included large areas of concrete and asphalt because it was a fucking Air Force base.
Horrible from this
So it basically made the entire concert that was in the Air Force Base like its own heat island, because all the heat would the temperatures would rise during the day because it would reflect off the asphalt, and then it would keep them elevated at night.
Just cooking everyone.
Yeah, essentially. And because it was also an Air Force Base, it wasn't like out in a field where there were trees and grass. It was
hot.
Just awful.
Alrighty, that'd be a big note for me, because I hate being hot more than anything else.
Yeah, I can stand being out in the cold. I can.
You can bundle up. You can't take off your skin.
Yeah,
when you're overheating. Ugh, I hate
heat stroke is no fucking joke. The east and west stages were 2.3 miles apart, which would make the people at the festival walk across 2 miles of just hot concrete.
Right, which is fair for a music festival, but with trees.
Yeah,
and grass.
Most music festivals, you
get a good ass workout at a music festival.
Yeah,
this
but
sounds
you
like a nightmare.
You get to walk on open fields.
You get to
of
lay in
grass.
some nice ass grass.
You
under
can put a
tree.
picnic blanket
It's
down,
great.
and there's just like it's just an open field of grass. This was just
Oh,
concrete and asphalt.
Horrendous.
And the few grassy areas that were there, were not enough for like campers to all set up their tents, and some people actually had to camp on the asphalt.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about the whole camping aspect.
Food and water sold on site by the vendors were ridiculously expensive. I think, if I remember correctly, it was like $12 for a water bottle.
I think towards the end, Saturday night, I think it got up to $12.
Yeah.
It started out at like $6 or $8, which was already crazy. $12 for like bottled water.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Or like some festivals or like events like that, pay $20 for a cup and you can like get free refills at any of the vendors. Which is like, makes a lot of sense. Like, chill out, $20, you get this cup, and it's unlimited throughout the rest of your time at the festival.
Which, I mean, a lot of concerts and festivals, yes, they do overcharge on food and water. But this one, it's so atrocious because
But
it
not
was
like this.
Not like this, and also it became like a necessity
for people.
That because they were dying of heat. Like, they should have just been giving that shit out for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just a chaos.
Yeah, once they realized, like, how awful it was for everyone there, they should have just been like, hey, you know what? Like, just take it.
the water. It's not even like it was alcohol. It was water.
Was water.
Yeah.
So, as an alternative, people at the festival would either have to, like, they would either walk or, like, travel via looping buses that were, like, packed full to Rome's, like, shopping areas. And all of the stores had, like, long lines and low stock, so even that didn't work.
Yeah.
And then people would stand in long lines to access the few free water fountains there were, because there were only a couple. Until frustration led a few of the people to break the pipes to provide water to those in the middle of the line, which created mud pits on the site. And then the number of toilets installed was ratioed incorrectly for the number of attendees. There weren't enough, like, set up toilets and showers and porta potties. There just weren't enough.
Yeah.
And so they were unusable and overflowing, and the combination of the broken water pipes with the mud pits and the overflowing toilets resulted in cases of trench mouth and trench foot with a lot of the festival goers.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into a trigger warning for sexual assault and rape. During the Offspring's performance, singer Dexter Holland complained to the crowd about seeing a woman in the audience getting groped by other people in the audience, as did Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist Flea during their set. At least 5 rapes and numerous other sexual assaults and harassment were reported to the authorities. Eyewitnesses reported a crowd surfing woman being pulled down into the crowd and assaulted in the mosh pit during Limp Bizkit's set. During the post-stage rave on Saturday night, a man stole and drove a truck into the rave hangar during Fatboy Slim's set. Staff reported seeing a teenager being raped in the back of the truck while attempting to remove it from the hangar area. A volunteer also reported seeing a woman being gang raped during the Korn performance.
Yeah.
So, it was awful.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there was so much more than just 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff that went unreported or just unnoticed because of everything else going on. Violence and vandalism also occurred during and after the Saturday night performance by Limp Bizkit. This included fans tearing plywood from the walls during a performance of the song Break Stuff. And then a man named David DeRosia collapsed in the mosh pit during Metallica's performance. Concert medical staff initially tried to treat his symptoms, which were seizures and what doctors suspected to be a drug overdose. DeRosia was transported to the Air Force Base Medical Center and was then airlifted to the University Hospital in Syracuse. A little more than an hour after he had collapsed, his body temperature was at 107 degrees Fahrenheit. The following afternoon, he was in a coma, and a doctor diagnosed him with hypothermia secondary to heat stroke. Jeez. After being in a coma for another day, DeRosia died at 12:09 p.m. on Monday, July 26th. The autopsy report ruled the death as accidental and listed the cause of death to be hypothermia, along with an enlarged heart and obesity. But it was hypothermia secondary to heat stroke.
I mean, horrible location for, just negligent.
It was.
Yeah.
It was just negligent on everyone who was setting up.
Yeah, setting it up and planning it. And
yeah, they did not do enough to account for all the people that were going to be there, nor did they pick a good location. It was just bad everywhere.
And then
they fucked up.
And then, you know, as you saw in the documentary, when the shit was hitting the fan, no one cared.
Mm-mm.
That was the other thing.
In 2001, DeRosia's mother filed a lawsuit in the New York Supreme Court against the promoters of Woodstock 99 and 6 doctors who worked at the event, with the lawsuit stating that DeRosia died because concert promoters were negligent by not providing enough fresh water and adequate medical care for 400,000 attendees, which is true.
Yes, absolutely.
2 other deaths were reported during the festival. A 44-year-old had succumbed to the heat on Friday, and he had also been an attendee of Woodstock 69, which he probably in 69 had a great fucking time.
Yeah.
Expected to go back this time to also have
Relive.
a great fucking time, and instead he died because of the heat.
It's horrible. And
then a 20-year-old woman was hit by a car while walking along the road when leaving the concert. Violence escalated during the final night of the concert as the Red Hot Chili Peppers performed on the East Stage and Megadeth performed on the West Stage. A group of peace promoters led by the anti-gun violence organization PAX, later renamed the Center to Prevent Youth Violence, had distributed candles to those stopping at their booth during the day, intending them for a candlelight vigil to be held during the Chili Peppers performance of the song Under the Bridge. Mm-hmm. Which is a bad idea to have fire at a festival.
Yeah, and it that's what happens. It ended up being a very bad idea.
Mm-hmm. During the band's set, the crowd began to light the candles, with some also using candles and lighters to start bonfires.
Yep.
Hundreds of empty plastic water bottles were like everywhere and used as fuel for the fire, which had spread to both stages by the end of the performances. After the band had finished their main set, the audience was informed about a bit of a problem. An audio tower had caught fire and the fire department was called to extinguish it.
But did they?
The fire escalated into violence and vandalism, resulting in the intervention of riot control squads, and then also ATMs and several semi-tractor trailers were looted and destroyed while the fires were happening.
And wasn't it like the firefighters on hand that the festival had, they like refused to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just refused to go put out these fires, do their job, because they were scared of this fucking crowd. Mm-hmm. Which, it's a bad idea to give candles to people who are already pissed.
Yeah,
at the situation. At this point, they are
because it's dirty, Saturday night.
They're gross. They're burnt to shit. They're hot. They're dehydrated. They are angry, and you give them fire? Not a good idea.
No, yeah, because this was like Saturday night, and it was just no one wanted to be there anymore.
And the festival had firefighters hired for the event, and they refused
didn't do anything,
to go. They were like, we're not going out in that crowd.
Yeah, the fires didn't get put out until like almost sunrise the next morning.
Yeah, it's truly chaos.
Yeah, and there were many large and high bonfires burning before the band left the stage.
Yeah.
Participants danced in circles around the fires, looking for more fuel. They tore off plywood panels from the security perimeter fence. ATMs were tipped over and broken into. Trailers full of merchandise and equipment were forced open and burglarized, and abandoned vendor booths were turned over and set on fire. Approximately $22,000 was robbed from the ATMs. By 11:45 p.m., a large force of 500 to 700 New York State police troopers, local police officers, and various other law enforcement did arrive. Most had riot control gear and proceeded to form a riot line that flushed the crowd to the northwest, away from the stage located at the eastern end of the airfield. Some reports state that few of the crowd offered strong resistance, and they dispersed back towards the campground and out the main entrance. Others claim that the riot line allowed the concert goers to tire themselves out in the campground area, and the fires were not contained until well after sunrise.
Insanity.
Yeah, because the riot line was just there to, like, basically instead of, like, you know, trying to get everything under control, get people out, they were just going to let them wear themselves out.
Yeah, which, okay, yeah.
Reports suggest that 42 to 44 people were arrested over the course of the festival. 10 state troopers and 2 state police supervisors were demoted or suspended for their behavior at the festival. A supervisor of 2 state troopers who had posed with naked female attendees was suspended, and a New York State prison guard was charged with sodomizing a 15-year-old girl during the riots. 253 people have been treated at area hospitals, and the number of people treated on site is between 4,000 and 4,500. Yet Dr. Richard Caskew, one of the area doctors who worked in the medical tent, says that he was told that the numbers were between 8,000 to 10,000 that were treated on site. Shortly after, the New York State Department of Health reported 5,162 medical cases related to the festival.
Jesus.
Police investigated 4 instances of rape that occurred during the concert. After the concert, members of the National Organization for Women gathered outside the New York offices of one of the promoters to protest the sexual violence against women which had occurred. Several lawsuits by concertgoers against the promoters for dehydration and distress were announced. In October of 2000, a woman sued Oneida County and Michael Lang for personal injury over sexual assault at the festival.
Did she win?
I don't know.
Probably not. Yeah.
If it's...
Which is horrible.
Because that's the way our government and law enforcement works. But it took 3 weeks to clean up the site after the festival. Organizers spent an estimated $78,000 resodding the grounds in the stage and mosh pit areas. And then following the event, San Francisco Examiner journalist Jane Ganal cast doubt on the ability to promote another high-profile Woodstock concert and described the event as the day the music died.
Yeah. One of the most wild things about watching that documentary, though, is the organizers and the people who, like, founded it doing press conferences while it was going to interviews,
shit. They were and then, like, their interviews after, like, for the documentary, like, basically acting like they didn't do anything wrong. I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
That was wild, too, but it was so wild to see them doing, like, press conferences during it, where they were like, yeah, I think we'll do this again another year, and then it, like, cuts to everything burning on fire, and he's like, yeah, we'll do it again, we have the mayor's support, and all this, and it was just bizarre how, like, these men were like, this is fine. Yeah. We did nothing wrong.
And I love how, like, Alanis Morissette came out during her set and was like, okay, like, y'all, we're gonna calm down, like, it's gonna be peaceful. And then fucking Limp Bizkit gets up there and they're like, hey, she said to calm down, just don't be mean to each other, but fucking go ham. And I'm like, why? Yeah. I'm like, I get that you want it to be like, you know, rock and roll, and you want it to be like a mosh pit, and like you want it to have the rock and roll vibes, but when it's already like that, you need to be discouraging the crowd.
Yeah, and then it's like, it's been a minute, I can't really remember, but I think during the Chili Peppers set, when everything was burning, they were putting, the people of the festival were putting pressure on the Red Hot Chili Peppers to, like, hey, get the crowd to calm down. Like, you need to go out there and be like, hey, let's not set things on fire. And it's like, one, you can't put that on them. They literally had nothing to do with this. Mm-hmm. And two, like, I think they tried. They're like, hey, let's not. And then the crowd just didn't care.
Yeah, no.
And then, like, the promoters were getting mad at the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I was like, this is not their fucking doing. Yeah. They didn't price water at, like, $18,000. So what are you doing? That was just bizarre how they were just trying to twist it any way they could.
And it's like, as long as, like, I will, like, Astroworld. Fucking, it was all Travis Scott's fault what happened.
Yeah.
Now, like,
truly.
With Woodstock 99, do I think Limp Bizkit should have gone up there and been like, hey, y'all, like, let's fucking party? Like, let's, probably not. But if you know, Limp Bizkit had been like, hey, y'all, like, let's not, like, tear things apart, don't break things, don't hurt each other, like, you know, let's try to kind of keep it calm, but still keep it fun. And then if they didn't listen, I'm like, that's fine. Like, because they did everything they could. Like, with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah. Like, they were like, hey, like, let's not set things on fire. But people didn't listen. That's not their fault. Now, if they had been up there being like, set everything on fire, I would be like...
It's a different story.
Different story.
Truly, yeah. Yeah, it's a wild...
But there are, like, a lot of articles and stuff that'll try and paint the people performing as, like, the bad guys in Woodstock 99. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, Flea was up there being like, hey, y'all, don't sexually harass this woman.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely not fun.
No.
In a different way. Somehow mine was not fun, yes. Aren't you glad you listened to us? That was random. We went from mummy cannibalism to Woodstock 99.
Yeah. It's also completely random from last time, because last time we talked about, like, mermaids and the multiverse theory, and now we're like, here are these horrible things that happened.
Yeah, you can't get content like this on other podcasts.
Anywhere else.
Come on. You love it. You love us.
Hopefully.
Except for that one person on YouTube. They don't love us.
Still don't know what happened to them.
Our one hater. It's great. Well, I guess we should spin.
Let's spin.
All right. We got our other newest category, which is kind of funny, back to back. But we got internet.
Woo!
Which last time we did, like, Reddit, Am I the Assholes, and BuzzFeed quizzes that made Skylar cry. So it was a fun one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I literally laughed so hard that I started crying. And if there's one way I'm gonna cry, it's because I'm laughing.
Yeah, that's true. So what do we get to drink something nice?
We do. We also got a drink we like again.
Okay. I mean, I don't hate that.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so we get to do internet and a drink we like.
Hell yeah.
Can't
It'll
hate
be
that.
fun. It'll be fun.
It will be.
If you would like to find the podcast, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok at Sip and Spin Pod. And if you would like to email us about, like, you know, if you want, like, a different topic to go on the wheel, or if you have suggestions for, like, something to do within the topic, like, if we get psychology and you want us to talk about, like, this thing about psychology, like, you know, just email us at sipandspinpod@gmail.com. If you would like to find Brittany, her ats are Whimsy Dream or Whimsy Dreams. And then if you'd like to find me, all of my social media is Gleam YKS. But as always, we do have all 3 link trees for the show, myself, and for Brittany down in the description below.
Yes, and you should like and subscribe to us on YouTube because we've been having a lot of fun over there.
We have.
So, just come join us, won't you? And also,
Please.
if you like video games, let us know what video games to play.
Yeah.
You can also slide those into our DMs. Because we play quite the variety, I gotta say. It's been interesting. I have nothing else to say.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to us be random this week. Join us next week for internet.
It was very random. I have a feeling internet will also be random, but
Probably.
yeah, we'll sip with you then.
Bye.